And welcome in to today's edition of Inside Arkansas Live. I am your host, John Neighbors, alongside Curtis Wilkerson and Andrew Ellis, as we are broadcasting live from the beautiful and great state of Arkansas. And fellas, I know we normally go around noonish, but we're not ever set in our ways of times. It's always about what things go on. But I have a chance to go a little later today because Sam Pittman met with the media, and I know we're going to talk a lot about that. But how are we feeling on a Thursday? How are we feeling right now?
Pretty good, man. It's kind of fun to really get back into the grind of this. Like for example, right now, trying to finish publishing and running an injury update story while we start going live on the show. But it's kind of that, culmination of a bunch of stuff on your plate. You're trying to multitask the best you can and get through it. And it's exciting, man, being back on the grind a little bit. But yeah, first scrimmage, it's always comes with a lot of optimism, right? They look great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Curtis, I'm sorry for having to add stuff to your workload. They decided to start the press conference 7 minutes early. I mean, what the heck? They didn't even give us a heads up on that. So yeah, we missed I missed the first 90 seconds of Sam Pittman's opener. So yeah, just wanted to add one more thing to your plate that you could take care of for us, Curtis. Appreciate it.
They're usually 7 minutes late, not 7 minutes early. So
literally, I was taking my sweet time getting seated and everything. I was like, there's no way they're starting at 11:55. I was even thinking, I was like, man, we might have to start the show at 1 because they're going to be late. And turns out we were wrong.
Yeah, well, that's just how it goes. Because also then I started having issues with my internet when it's just started. I was like, oh, we're going to do a reset real quick in the middle of it. So yeah, we're banging on all cylinders here on a Thursday though. But we got to check it out. We got to check out the press conference from Sam Pittman, and we have a lot of clips and a lot of things to discuss today. And also, if you want to get in on the chat and hit us up and let us know of any questions, comments, concerns, or criticisms, which I'm sure you guys will all have, be sure to hit us up in there as well. So. But we'll before we start playing the clips, I know that at least me and Andrew got to watch the majority of the press conference. And Curtis, you watched the entirety. But anything specifically, the first thing that stood out to you from Sam Pittman and the fact that, we get to hear from all the position coaches, but when it's the head hog, what really stood out to you in the grand scheme of things there?
Well, I think it sounded like a pretty standard scrimmage. The format, they did a lot of good on good, which I do like. But they started with ones versus twos on both ends and kind of worked their way through that. But they got into a lot of situational stuff where it was, starters or ones versus ones. But really for me, what stood out was half the team and a lot of the guys you're relying on just didn't participate today. And that sounds really scary. Like anybody who, might look at this injury report that we just put out on InsideArkansas.com will be like, what the hell is going on? But it was a lot out of precaution, right? There's probably 15 to 18 guys on this list that just didn't participate today, but they're just being careful with guys, bumps, bruises, whatever, for the most part. But it allowed for some names to step up. I mean, he immediately called out Isaiah Satania for making some big plays. Well, you love to hear it. You love to see it. Davion Dozier sounds like he had maybe a touchdown catch or two. So when Andrew Armstrong and Tyrone Broden are nursing some minor injuries, who are the other guys who are going to step up? Monte Harrison, outfielder turned wide receivers, making some plays out there. So what I thought was the coolest thing about it was just hearing some of those other names who kind of emerged and stepped up, because they gotta have those guys. You having injuries in camp, you're going to have injuries in the season. So how deep is this team?
Yeah, and just kind of reading between the lines of what he said. I mean, obviously nobody was out there to see it. It was a closed scrimmage.
Right.
So we all just kind of have to go off of what they tell us. It did seem like the offense started fast. That was the vibe that we got. And then it seemed like the defense kind of won a lot of the big situations. He mentioned the offense needing to get better at finishing drives and finishing the game. And so, yeah, I think you can kind of read between the lines and realize there were some red zone issues there, but which is a little bit to be expected when you're down a starting offensive lineman, you're down your top two receivers. But he was very
running backs.
Right. He was very complimentary of Taylon Green and obviously Isaiah Satania, Davion Dozier, some of those guys. So, and he was also complimentary of Malachi Singleton, which makes me think the Arkansas Razorbacks were throwing the ball around a little bit, moving the ball. And so there was, you can look at it through whatever lens you want to look at it through, but I'm glad you touched on the injuries, Curtis. And, obviously, if you want to read more in depth on that, InsideArkansas.com, Curtis just posted 4 minutes ago some very notable updates there. And it does. But I think the good thing is, if you're an Arkansas fan, is it doesn't seem like any of these injuries are going to be huge deals. And obviously, at this point in the year, it's not like we need to see Andrew Armstrong go out there and play. It's not like we need to see Jaquin and Jackson solidify anything. Like those are guys you're not really worried about. And so yeah, it does seem like Arkansas is in pretty good shape. It seemed like it was a productive day at the office for the Hogs.
Yeah, a handful of other just like notes that I wrote down that stood out to me with Pittman. He said that there weren't that many penalties. They had SEC officials out there, but he was really pleased with the lack of penalties. Just a handful of PIs, which I think you expect early on. And what do you say? I think maybe not until way later in the practice, and maybe it was with the threes where they had an illegal procedure. I just remember the last few camps, he would walk in after that first scrimmage and just be like, well, we had too many penalties now. We got to clean that up. And that was the opposite. So that's probably a good sign. And we got to make note of the kickers, man, because we talked a lot about special teams and being worried about that situation. He called out Devin Bell unprompted about how good he's been and how good he was today with 3 punts over 50 yards and how he's been booming it. And then the kickers were 8 of 9 on field goals today. And then shout out to Matthew Shipley, who nailed apparently a 51-yarder at the very end in situational, which was a game winner. So maybe those guys are picking it up a little bit there, and they need it.
Yeah, I was thinking about when he was talking about the kickers and all of that. It's like, it may seem like not that big of a deal whenever you get to hear from the kickers or get to hear how they're doing. But considering how bad they were, at least in the spring game and everything, it's kind of like, yeah, you kind of want to hear that they are at least hitting the field goals in practice. I mean, I know we can't really say anything till the games, but considering how bad it was, it's nice to know that they're at least improving in that. Well, I'll tell you what, since you talked about the injuries, we're going to play this clip. I'm going to be honest, folks. It's 2.5 minutes long because it is literally Sam Pittman just giving the updates on who's injured and who was held out today or whatever. And he's even got a list of it. So just stay with us because we'll be back on the other side of the break is what I feel like we're going to have to say because this is such a long clip. But we'll check it out and see who's all injured.
I can just go down. I was anticipating this. Pat Kudas got a back, so we're resting it. We've rested it for a few days. We feel like we'll get him back. I'm not positive. It may be another week. It may be another week and a half, but we feel good that we're going to get him back. Joffrey Brown, we held him today. That was us. He's had some knee surgeries and things, and we've been holding him some in practice as well. So that was a neat deal. Luke Brown is going to have a trim on his cartilage that he had worked on before. So that was 2 days ago. John Hill, Luke Has, Anton Junkaj, and Marquise Robinson are out with concussions, and they've all been out different times. So depending on when they get back, I think Anton was the first one, so I anticipate him being back this coming week. Cuddy Marquise would be the next one, and then Luke's was just recent, and John Hills was just recent. Rashad Dubinion didn't play today because of a knee swelling on his knee. Jaquinda Jackson has his mild ankle sprain. Tyrone Broden, we didn't play him today from turf toe. I imagine some of these guys will be back tomorrow, but we just held them today. Dylan has a back. He'll probably be back tomorrow as well. Jaheim Singletary's got a hamstring, and Vito's got a pull growing muscle. Obviously, we know he's a kicker, so we held him. I don't have any. The longest one that I think is going to be out is Luke Brown because he's going to have to be out for a couple of weeks. But the rest of these guys will be back. I think if we forced half of that group to play today, I think they could have. Did I miss Armstrong?
Yeah.
Armstrong's got a slight hamstring too. I think they could have played if we pushed them. When I was in high school, I had a hamstring and I had a growing, and I don't know if I'd have got out of the way of that damn guy hit me in front of my knee or not, but we didn't play anybody today. We're trying to get better today, and we felt like as a staff that it'd be better to hold these kids, get them back healthy, and then because we still have another scrimmage and some other live reps going on, so we decided to do that.
Oh man,
Dude.
Yeah.
I mean, just to peel back the curtain a little bit, like we like to go, especially right now in camp, we go live pretty much right after these press conferences because we want to react to them, and it just so happens to be the time we usually do the show. But trying to anticipate in advance a little bit of like, what are some of the better storylines going to be? Can we get a written content out before we go live and talk about it? So I text these two guys earlier this morning. I said, hey, I think I'm just going to kind of, just skeleton an injury report together. That should be something that'll be quick to get out. So I had already written a little bit about like, oh, here's what he had to say about Patrick Kutas and Anton Junkaj, and then maybe something on Armstrong. Just 2 or 3 guys were like, oh, we'll probably hear about that. He just kept going and going and going. I was like, holy crap. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot there. So I like them being cautious with guys. If you got running backs that have, some dings in the lower body, set them out, man. Yeah, get them healthy. You know what you're going to get out of Jaquindon Jackson and DeBinion. Same thing with guys like, Armstrong and Broden. If it's just minor stuff, turf toe, you know how that lingers. Why scrimmage? We don't need to see Tyrone Broden right now. So I think it was smart. The concussion thing stinks, man, because I know they wear those protective caps over the helmets. And that's supposed to limit those. That's a lot of guys right there to get some concussions early. But I mean, I'd like to say get them out of the way, but those can happen whenever. But better for them to happen now if they're going to, because you have to go through the protocol and everything and get cleared. It's almost like a mandatory week that you're out. So if it's going to happen in camp, that's probably better than happening closer to the season. But yeah, my goodness, man, that's a pretty deep list there.
It sounds like they're trying to trick the injury gods. They're like trying to like offer a nice little sacrifice where they're like, hey, we've got all these injuries. We're good, right? Like this is fine, right? One thing I really love that Sam Pittman does is he doesn't say Patrick Kutas has a back injury. He says Patrick Kutas has a back.
He does have a back.
Andrew Armstrong has a slight hamstring. I love that he does that. Where he's like, oh, he's got an ankle. He's got
Vito Cabaruso does have a groin. If you
does in fact, yeah. I love that he does that. But I also love going back to the penalties just for a second. I love that he always says illegal. He thinks every penalty is illegal procedure.
Yeah.
Which like illegal procedure is a real thing, but it's like he'll always be like, yeah, offense, we didn't have any illegal procedures. It's like that never gets called on offense. Like that's almost always kick out of bounds type of thing. But yeah, I just love his little quirks that he has about certain things, and when he's just listing them off all there, he's like, yeah, so-and-so's got this body part, so-and-so's got this body part. It's good stuff.
Did I hear him say when he's talking about his own injury, a groin? Like, how did he say that? It's like a groin. It's like 2 syllables he had in groin.
It's like growing a little bit.
A groin. Yeah, it was like a groin. I was like, okay, well, I guess that's also part of the body that could be injured. But yeah, just a laundry list of injuries, and you never want to see anybody get injured, but it's also it's fall camp, and sometimes you're just going to have guys dinged up. Like I don't know about y'all. I don't really have any like major concern with any of the guys he like listed off as far as being like, oh crap.
Kutas would be the only one for me. When you have an offensive lineman and he has a history, I think, with some back stuff. That's we saw that with guys like Dalton Wagner, and I have no idea if it's muscular, if it's a disc, or so I really don't know the nature of it. But anytime you think about a 300+ pound man, absorbing the types of things he absorbs there in the trenches and having back issues, that one, I'll probably have my eyes kind of on that for a while. But yeah, I think literally everyone else aside from, Luke Brown, who's got to have the cartilage trim, seems like they'll be all right.
It's interesting. I'm glad y'all brought up the O-line. He mentioned that Amari Wiggins, that what they did instead of replacing Kutas with Tykees Crawford or whatever, Amari Wiggins moved in at center, and they moved Addison Nichols to guard.
Was interesting.
Which is interesting and notable. That kind of tells you a little bit of kind of how they view this O-line and who the top 6-7 guys are. And, Wiggins is a guy they brought in essentially to be the backup center. And so I thought it was interesting that he mentioned that. And also when you talk about the no illegal procedures, not a ton of pre-snap penalties and stuff, moving in an offensive lineman and not having any of those issues, I think is notable. But from the sounds of it, it seems like Arkansas was able to throw the ball well, and maybe the defensive line controlled the run game a little bit, which I think makes sense when you have one of your best offensive linemen out and there's a little bit of shuffling around and stuff like that. So overall, it didn't seem like there was a dominant, normally, like you said, we hear that, oh, the pass rush just ate them alive today, or, oh, the DBs were just clamping today, or the receivers were getting open. Like, we didn't really, like, at least not to our understanding, his poker face was pretty good, because we didn't get a sense that like one group was dominating one or the other in any real aspect.
Yeah. And I jotted down I think he was asked if like there was anybody who really just jumped off the page at him or surprised him. And he ran through a few names there, so I'll just share them. But, Satania was one that he mentioned a couple times. Great. If Armstrong and Broden are going to be out, then Satania, Davion Dozier stepping up. That's awesome. I mean, that's exactly what you want to see. Luke has out with concussion. He mentioned Barkeys Gums as a guy who was making some plays. He mentioned Braylon Russell as a guy who did some good things. Jaden Johnson. We don't talk about Jaden Johnson enough.
No.
We really don't, man. I mean, he had a hell of a year last year and is one of the returning leaders in tackles on this defense. So Landon Jackson, obviously. And then I thought it was really interesting what he was saying about Keevy Rose as a guy who could really push for a spot there on the 2 deep, maybe a starting position. And Sam just went right out there and said straight up, and this after we talked about defensive line depth so much yesterday, he said, look, we have to find a fourth defensive end. We have to find a fourth defensive tackle. Those are musts. So the jury's still out, I guess, in regards to those positions.
Yeah. And I'm also, going back to the Jaden Johnson thing, I always get it mixed up. Was it him or was it the other guy that like went to the portal and then came back out of the portal? Was it Jaden Johnson that did that? Or was
Jaden Johnson never hit the portal, but we all thought he was going to.
Yes.
Okay.
That Missouri game in 2022, where he was just out there and he got benched in the middle of the game, and it looked like he was literally quitting on national television. And Miles Slusher had just quit the team as well. And then after the season, they kind of said that, he got in with the wrong crowd and all that. And I think that's really what was happening. But it seemed like last year in the offseason, he came back refreshed a little bit. And I mean, he obviously earned a starting job and, had a really nice year. And so all indications are that he's good. But now Bryce Stevens did the enter the portal and then
That's
right back.
That must have been who I'm thinking of then. So, but yeah, so a few of the players that you guys kind of brought up that Sam Pittman did mention, the backup quarterback position, which I know we all know Taylon Green's the guy, but Sam Pittman discussed backup quarterback QB2 here.
Well, I mean, Malachi's definitely the two right now. I mean, there's no, KJ and Boda are fighting it out there to continue to move up on the depth chart, but Malachi's played. I mean, you'll have to ask Taylor about that because he sees him in a different light than I do because he knows it's all his reads and all that. But I tell you what, he's throwing the ball well. He's getting the ball out of his hand, and he's a terrific runner as well. So
Malachi Singleton basically comes out and say he's the backup quarterback. He's QB2, and you never want anyone to get injured. But I look at it just in the perspective of Arkansas. Like if you think about every single season over the past 10 or so years, I can't remember a single time or a single season where the starting quarterback started and played through the entire season, every single game without getting dinged up or hurt or anything. I guess like last year, KJ, I don't think ever got to the point. Maybe last year may have been the exception, but before that, Malik Hornsby had to start the LSU game. Before that, KJ had to come in for Felipe Franks when he was out. You think about the Texas A&M game in 2021 that Arkansas won in the second half. Malik Hornsby was in there. Austin Allen's been hurt. So the point is, the quarterback two guy, like you don't want to see him unless you're blowing out the other team or whatever. But just given how trends go and how college football is and the grind of the SEC, it's probably going to be likely that Singleton's going to have to come in at some point in time and step up. And so that's where's the confidence at? Where you have do you guys feel good about Malachi Singleton being QB2?
Well, I mean, the great thing about it for Malachi Singleton is by being the backup quarterback, he's the de facto most popular player on the team. That's just kind of how this thing works. The backup quarterback is always the most popular guy on the team. Now I feel good about it. And that was a pretty, not just the statement, but Pittman's reaction when he was asked the question even about Malachi and KJ Jackson battling out for that backup spot. He was kind of taken aback when he was asked the question. He was like, no, like he's the guy. He's number two. So, I think that tells you a lot about maybe the separation there and how confident they feel in him. And man, I got to say, I don't know, surely in the spring, Singleton looked good, man. I mean, he's just, I think he's exactly what you want in a backup quarterback. He's solid. He's just solid. He doesn't put the ball in harm's way too much. He can use his legs if he needs to. Got a good arm. He's a good player. That's what you want there.
I think from an accuracy standpoint, you can make an argument he is the best. He's the most accurate quarterback Arkansas has. I mean, based on just the spring you mentioned that we were watching these guys every day and really kind of charting throws and seeing all that. He's really decisive, really accurate. And, I think going into the offseason, we thought there was going to be much more of an actual quarterback battle, but it felt like it was, okay, Taylon Green versus Jacoby Criswell, and Singleton was kind of the guy that people would give a courtesy nod to. But it was quick. It was about a week into spring before we realized, Jacoby Criswell is not only not the starter, he ain't the number 2.
Yeah.
I think Malachi Singleton, obviously Taylon Green being there and winning the job as definitively as he did, had a good bit to do with Jacoby Criswell transferring out. But Malachi Singleton beating him out for the backup spot is a story that I feel like flew under the radar a little bit. And just consistency and decisive, and he's deceptively athletic, like really athletic. He had a couple plays in the spring where he was able to really hit a seam, and his top end speed is impressive. And this is a kid that was basically injured his senior year of high school, and obviously didn't play as a true freshman at Arkansas. It seems like as a redshirt freshman, he's starting to put it together and taking those nice development track that you want your quarterbacks to do. So, I mean, this is a guy who, if he had to play a little bit this year, you'd feel pretty good about him, a lot better than you would this time last year. And so I'm even just thinking about how are we going to feel about Malachi Singleton this time next year and the year after that, of just the steps he's going to take in his development. It's been really encouraging. I feel like this has been a very big offseason for him. And to solidify yourself as the number 2 quarterback as a redshirt freshman is just nothing to scoff at. Like, that's a hard thing to do, especially in college football with just how chaotic it is at the quarterback position.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys. We know like Malachi Singleton was a Kendall Briles commitment and signee. I believe KJ Jackson technically was a commitment under Dan Enos. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure he was. And then Bobby Petrino bringing in Taylon Green. So you almost have like kind of the 3 main quarterbacks that are on the roster right now all came to Arkansas or were committed to Arkansas from 3 different coordinators or quarterback coaches. And that's kind of what I was going to be interested in seeing when Bobby Petrino came in. It's like Pittman said, hey, go get your guy, go get your quarterback. And he saw what Arkansas had on the roster. He's like, that's not who I want. I want to go get Taylon Green. He got Taylon Green. And Jacoby Criswell ended up transferring, went back to North Carolina, if I'm not mistaken. I think he went back to Chapel Hill. And then you have these other guys that are coming in. So it makes me wonder, because Petrino chose Taylon Green, does he have that same confidence in the Malachi Singleton, in a KJ Jackson, where he's like, yeah, even though I didn't necessarily choose you guys, or at least you didn't commit to me, you didn't sign because of me, do I feel confident and comfortable that you're, at least if something happens to Taylon, heaven forbid, but if something happens to him, you guys are going to come right in and pick up right where he left off? Because as we all know, especially during the Petrino era, when Ryan Mount went down and Tyler Wilson came in that Auburn game in 2010, you're like, okay, Petrino, he knows what he's doing with his quarterbacks. But it just makes me wonder, is that going to be the same confidence that you have from Taylon Green to a Malachi Singleton, or will the drop-off be significant?
I think that confidence is going to be there. I feel like if it wasn't, then, those guys would have been hitting the portal besides Criswell, and he would have went and got the guys that he felt comfortable with. So sounds like they had a good spring and built that relationship. Petrino doesn't seem like the kind of guy that would, hold back how he really feels about a situation. So if those guys weren't fitting what he was trying to get out of that position, I feel like he would have let them know and they'd be somewhere else by now.
Yeah, I mean, in the spring, there was one quarterback that was checked out from day one, and that quarterback is no longer on campus. I think that it played out the way it was supposed to play out, or at least from that standpoint. And I look forward to hearing from Petrino on Tuesday and just kind of hearing some of his thoughts, because we'll get to hear him go a little bit more in depth on how he feels about Taylon, some of his strengths, some of his weaknesses. And we've heard a little bit of that, but really on Malachi and just what he's seen from them. But you mentioned KJ Jackson. He's kind of the one where, honestly, he might be the most well-rounded out of all these guys from just a skill standpoint. I really hope he's able to stick it out and build that relationship with Petrino and just see what his career might look like. Because, I mean, this time last year, we were not speaking about Malachi Singleton at all. And so I feel like we're talking about KJ Jackson even more than we talked about Singleton last year. So this spring, we'll see how it plays out. And obviously we'll see if Taylon Green's still around, and there's a lot that can change, but I look forward to seeing just kind of not those battles play out, but just see how the development works for all these guys.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about Bobby Petrino, because not only did he get talked about with Sam Pittman, but also with Taylon Green. We'll do that as part of your Inside Arkansas update presented by Davis & Garrett Insurance, your independent auto owners insurance agency. securing what matters the most. And in part of that, Sam Pittman was asked about Bobby Petrino and what he's brought to the program, essentially. And I think we all kind of understand exactly what Sam Pittman means by his answer.
He was automatic bringing optimism to the program when we hired him, because of the success he had here as a head coach. I love Bobby. He's done a really good job helping me I run him, Travis, I run a ton of stuff off of him. And usually it's, I think we should do that. And sometimes it's, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? But the thing that Bobby brings to our program is just, and Travis as well, Bobby brings that swag to the program. He brings that belief of our players. They believe in whatever he says that it's going to work, and the schematics of how it's going to work. They believe that he knows all the answers for that. And there's a lot to be said about that when you're coaching kids and they're not questioning how you're coaching them. They're going, if he tells me something and I do it like he says with my athletic ability and my mind, it's going to work. And I think that he has a very unique way with people. And I think, I think Taylor could probably answer it better than me, but that's how I feel the kids see him.
Okay, so bringing in swag, I guess, is what Sam Pittman talks about. But when he went specifically into I know the player's approach, if I know this guy tells me to do this, I know it's going to work. I know it's going to be successful. I think that's the type of swagger that's brought in. It's not to say that like Kendall Briles was unable to do that, or even Dan Enos, which I know was a disaster then. But like Petrino is a guy who has been calling offenses in college for 20 years now, essentially over 20 years, and has been successful pretty much everywhere he's been offensively. Even though the game of football's changed, even though the offense has changed, he has still found success. He's had players he can point to. He's had a Heisman Trophy winner in Lamar Jackson. Like that's not something Kendall Briles can say. That's not something Dan Enos can really say. And I think that because of Petrino just having that type of mentality where he's very direct, as you were talking about, Curtis, just like, I'm going to tell you how I feel. He's not going to tell you something that he doesn't truly believe. He's going to be like, hey, I do this because this is what works. And that's something I think may have been missing, especially from the offense, especially from the team, where it's just like, hey, I know that we went 4-8 last year. I know you may have been frustrated with stuff, but this is Bobby Petrino, and Bobby Petrino knows. And if you question him, then you're the one that's going to end up having at a disadvantage because of that.
I think that was also something that was missing for Bobby Petrino at Texas A&M last year.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm really excited to see him without the handcuffs on him, because you could just tell by watching Texas A&M that, we know who was calling the shots there.
Yeah.
That's just the way it was. So for Bobby to kind of get back into his bag a little bit will be exciting to see. I don't know if I ever really thought about Bobby Petrino as a big swag guy. I thought that was an interesting choice of words. I get it with the players play with confidence because they trust, that he knows what he's doing. For me, it's more of an aura thing that, we hear that word a lot now. It seems like Bobby P's kind of got an aura about him.
Bobby's got goated aura is what Curtis is saying.
That's right. That's right.
And I think if you talk to fans around the country, in the state of Arkansas, that swagger that Bobby brings certainly resonates with them. Because, there's so many people like yesterday when we were talking about whether or not Talon would be top 3 or bottom 3, people were like, Bobby P, of course he's going to be top 3. Like, they just expect greatness and they expect success, especially on the offensive side of the ball, because of Bobby Petrino. You would think that Arkansas was like coming off of the 11-2 season in 2011, the way that people were like, wait, why would we not win 9-10 games? Like, it's just, we're going to, because Bobby Petrino. So I think that speaks to it a little bit. But I think with players, it's not like this is some random old geezer where they're like being told, oh, hey, this guy was good back in the day or whatever. They watch Lamar Jackson on TV. They know who that guy is. They've heard of Mike Vick, who I know Bobby Petrino didn't get to coach, but was hired to coach him. And they see his track record. And so I think there's also his success at Arkansas, his success with specific athletes, and just his success in different schemes at different levels. NFL, college, FBS, FCS, SEC, all over the place. I think he has he checks a lot of boxes to where there's not a single player on the roster who's probably having questions. Like, if you're a great running back, he's put running backs in the NFL. He's had a lot of success with them. Receivers, he's obviously done a lot with receivers in the state of Arkansas. Quarterback, I mean, you can go on. And so I think he has enough on his resume that it kind of checks all the boxes that anyone could be looking for.
Yeah, he's able to identify those things. And with thinking about to when he was at Louisville and whatnot and the Lamar Jackson thing, I remember it was so crazy because that was almost a knock against him too of, well, he has great college quarterbacks, but they don't translate to the NFL. He had the Brian Brohms and the, and Ryan Mallett, which I know, rest in peace. He played in the NFL for a bit, but Tyler Wilson and, he wasn't there for long. And, people just kind of really held that against him until the Lamar Jackson thing happened. And now, Lamar has won an MVP in the NFL. So that was always something that was kind of held against him. But one of the things that I remember, and you talk about the swag and the directness and the confidence and everything, it's so funny because, like you said, Curse, you wouldn't think that somebody like Bobby Petrino, you can describe it as having swag. But I'll never forget when he spoke at the Little Rock Touchdown Club, when he made his first appearance back in the state of Arkansas after everything happened. He was asked about that play in 2010 against LSU right before halftime with 6 seconds left to Kobe Hamilton that ended up being a huge difference in that game for Arkansas winning it. And he was talking about when there's 6 seconds left, Arkansas just got the ball. They're at their own 20. And he called a play with Mallett, was on sidelines. And he said, Ryan looked at him like, are you really, that's what we're running? And he goes, yes, go do it. Just very that's yes. And it was almost, and then what made that so funny is not only did Arkansas end up winning that game and scoring a touchdown there, but there's just things that sometimes, Bobby is in his mind, man. He just I see something that he knows. And even though it doesn't make sense, even though it's I don't know, maybe you should take a knee here. He always just sees things that a lot of people don't. And I think that that's what makes quarterbacks and every quarterback that's ever played for him really respect him too.
Yeah, he's definitely got some Rain Man qualities to him as a play caller, man.
Yeah. I mean, that's the vibes I get. It's just he's working in there in his mind, and I don't want to go inside of that and see what's going on because it's probably a lot happening. But it's going to be pretty fascinating to hear, and see more of the Petrino stuff. In fact, Taylon Green, the quarterback for Arkansas, had a chance to catch up with him too. He was asked about the Petrino impact on not only his individual game, but also as the team offense in general.
I'll say first, just a mentality, mentality of every single time we get the ball, our goal is to score. And he's like, we are going to score. And Coach Pitt said belief, and that's really big too. Anything that he says, we're not going to question. We believe, if he says this coverage, our progression is this, we're going to do it every single time. And I mean, when we're a little slow, he'll have the offense bring it up and he'll, say a couple words, but that's just the thing, just mentality and just the belief that we have, that every single time we're going to step on the field, we're going to score.
Last year saving.
So confidence, needless to say, is pretty high. And that's the swag, the mentality of hey, we're going to score. And it's a culture thing. And it's just, again, fun to hear that the quarterbacks and talking about, hey, that's where that swag comes from is we want to score and we're going to score.
Yeah, I mean, hard not to have confidence whenever you're Taylon Green and your top 2 receivers and top 2 running backs are down and you're still making plays.
Slinging that thing.
Yeah, still slinging it around. It's it doesn't matter, man. And I think that's another thing, the aspect of this Bobby thing is it's not like it's one simple formula. Whereas, some of these the greatest offensive minds you think of in college football, it's they have their system. They run the triple option. They run this 5 wide spread thing, or they run the air raid or whatever. It's not like Bobby is just has a system where it's hey, everyone do this. Although he does have a little bit of that, like you said, John, where he's telling Mallett, hey, just do it.
Yeah.
It seems like he's so good at working around the talent that he has. And so I think that has to give you confidence as an offensive player of I don't have to be something I'm not. I can just be Isaiah Satania and have my skill set, and he's going to find a way to make me shine. And so early on, it seems like he's at least won over his team and led them to believe that he's that guy that can do that for him.
And that's half the battle, man. You got to get that belief. I'm not sure. And, in fairness, we heard a lot of these similar quotes from players last year talking about Dan Enos.
Oh, yeah.
We know that didn't work out, but they were never really fully bought in and picking up what he was putting down. That's half the battle at this time of year is belief and bringing everybody together. And we're hearing all the right things as we thought we would. This is the closest bunch I've ever been around. And These guys are getting together under trees on a picnic blanket, studying the playbook, but it, like you feel like you might believe it a little bit more just because of the Petrino factor. And we'll see what it looks like on Saturdays.
Like, how do you guys?
You just can't tell me that KJ Jefferson was going to the line of scrimmage with as much confidence as Talon is in his offensive coordinator now. I mean, there was almost times where you could visibly see it. I mean, they fired the dude halfway through the season, so that tells you enough. But it's like there were a lot of times where I don't think that confidence was in that offense, even though we heard all these right things. It definitely felt a little bit different last year compared to this year.
And I also don't know that the other 10 guys were going up to the line of scrimmage with the same amount of confidence in KJ that they're going to have in Talon Green. And it's not because of his skill set as a player, but like I've said the last few days here, I do feel like there's a difference and an upgrade with the leadership at that position. And it seems like everybody on that offense, really everybody on the roster, is very much on Team Talon Green. And I don't know if that was necessarily the case last year with KJ. So I think that matters too.
I don't think they dislike KJ, but I definitely don't think it was like, we're going to war for this guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and I think also something about KJ, and this is not like an insult, and this is not like, there's different ways to skin a cat, but like KJ was always at his best when he improvised. I mean, like we saw like the play he had against Bahama, when throwing that guy off, that wasn't a called play. Or the times when he would choose to run and go for these big gains when the coverage broke down. It's like, that's when he was at his best, when he was just kind of able to do his thing. And that's fine. There's a lot of quarterbacks. I feel like Johnny Manziel was one of those quarterbacks, just like, hey, that's when he's at his best. But when I try to put myself into the position of being a fellow offensive player, like an offensive lineman or whatever, that's great. You do that, but that doesn't help me. Like, hey, I know this is the play I'm supposed to run, but I have no idea what you're going to do. And so that because of that, it has to cause some sort of disconnect. It has to be like, okay, well, we're doing our job, but then if this play breaks down, you go do your thing, but then like, we don't know what to do. Where do we go block? What do we do? But I think there's just more of an organization to that, where with Talon, I know we've just seen a very small sample size of him, and with the Petrino offense, but I think it's just going to be a much more interconnected unit, where it's like, it's not like, okay, well, hey, we hope this works, but if not, Talon will just improvise. I think it's going to be, hey, this is the play, all 11 guys, same page, doing their thing the way they're supposed to do it. And because of that, there's just going to be a much tighter connection offensively.
Yeah, I buy that. I buy into that.
That's a great point. And I think with Talon, that's some of the stuff we've been hearing about him from the very beginning in the spring. Petrino was like, he loves talking football. He loves talking X's and O's. He challenges his teammates in that regard. And so I think when we talk about confidence and some of that, the schematics, and you kind of have to win those guys over in the offseason. And Talon's definitely done that. Now, will it actually translate on the field remains to be seen. But as of right now, they definitely have a lot more belief in their guy knowing what to do. And I think that's one of the things that makes this Talon Green, Bobby Petrino duo, that's going to make it special, is I think because they are so connected in that way, and they're both kind of film junkies and weird like that. And so, yeah, I think that's definitely a huge factor.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just excited to actually see like football and not just, practices and stuff.
Talk about it.
Yeah. Just not be like, hey, we're, this is going to be great and great and great. And then if it's not, then it's just like, you said it was going to be great. It's like, well, the coaches said that it was going good. So like, it's just a tale of time.
Nothing better than game day, man.
Dude, it's the best. It's honestly the best. We're going to continue our discussion. I want to bring up, because Sam Pittman was asked about the new injury report policy that was taken out. I do want to play that here in just a second, but folks, want to remind everybody that we're brought to you by Hopper Termite Pest. A lot of you are having to deal with that, and I even know some people here locally that's been having to deal with all the termites and pests that's dealing in their homes right now. Well, that's why you got to give Hopper Termite and Pest a call at 479-750-4070 and get rid of those pests right now. Have them eradicated and have the treatment done, because you don't want to deal with that. Nobody wants to deal with that. It's not good for your health. It's not good for your home health. It's not good for your mentality. It's not good for anybody, anything, anyway. So always get those problems eradicated with Hopper Termite and Pest. You can call them again at 479-750-4070. Use the promo code NEIGHBORS, my last name. You get $50 off your very first treatment. It's that simple. They service the Northwest Arkansas and North Central Arkansas area. You can also check out their website at callhopper.com. But get rid of those pests today with Hopper Termite and Pest. Okay, so yesterday we talked about the injury report policy that's being issued into the SEC. We had a quote from Sam Pittman that I believe he was asked about at SEC Media Days, but he was asked again about it and went into what he feels about the policy and if the rule comes into play?
Well, I think, some of it is, guys, you guys, if a kid's out, okay, and you just say he's out, for me, if I say he's out and that's it, then sometimes, and y'all get frustrated with it because you want to know why he's out. Sometimes I don't want to tell you why he's out. And you understand what I'm saying. Sometimes it's disciplinary reasons. Sometimes it's a death in the family. There's sometimes, you know what I mean? And sometimes he's injured, you know what I mean? So to me, I'm for it because out is just out. And then you go from there. So, and I think the NFL does it that way. And so I'm for it. And I think it will help, especially with quarterback situations. You can't say, well, I don't know. I mean, if he's out, he's out, and you've got to say it, so I'm all for it. And I'm all for it because there's sometimes even guys legality why we can't talk about why we're not playing a kid, and it just makes it, to me, a lot more cut and dry, a lot more easier, a lot easier on me to not worry about getting sued or something too.
Well,
Okay, so I did like
Fair.
I'm sure it's true, but it's also just kind of hearing like, yeah, it's also, I don't want to get sued. It's like, well, I guess it can be a little bit serious. What is it? The HIPAA laws or whatever that get thrown around a lot, but it's yes. Like when he's talking about, sometimes he's like, y'all want to know, but I just don't want to tell you. And in some cases, but I think I don't know. I feel like he's staying pretty consistent for what he said in the quote we had yesterday. I mean, he's staying with it and he's not going to be against it, but I mean, it's funny to know like how so many different coaches handle that too.
And fair enough with his response there. I'm fine with that. Like, I don't have a big qualm with it. It does answer my question yesterday when we were talking about it. And I was wondering, okay, well, is it going to be out knee or out back or out hamstring, or is it just going to be out? Well, it's just going to be out. So we'll see if if practices are really shut down during the season. We're not going to have any idea. And then it really is going to be on him. I think I wouldn't say he gets irritated. He doesn't like having to answer those questions and being asked those questions. He even said it today. He was like, well, I anticipated this, so I have a list for you. But if an injury comes out or injury report comes out and it's got, Taylor Green out, well, guess what? The next time Sam Pittman's in front of a microphone, we're all going to be asking him why he's out. And then he's still going to have that conundrum of, well, do I tell him? Do I not? Can I not? So it's not really going to make his job that much easier, honestly.
You are not out of the woods yet, Sam.
That's
not
right. That's right.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Yeah. Cause that's what I laughed about too. Cause I'm like, man, like it's not going to stop the questions. Like, and that's just for every college football coach. Like it's not going to stop people from asking. But I was laughing about it too. Cause I was like, is it going to be out with a back? It's not a back injury, but just a back.
Yeah.
Out with a back. But yeah, it's again, I understand where he's coming from because I couldn't imagine when you're especially dealing with like 18, 19, 20-year-old kids and you had a lot to deal with their families. And if they're injured or if something's going on or whatever, and who knows, maybe they've asked you not to say anything. Maybe they don't feel comfortable about you saying things. Maybe they don't want anyone to know. Like there's so much stuff that could be just the players too that maybe not want anybody to know. And then if you're Sam Pittman, you're like, oh, I don't want it. I mean, there's just so many different things about it to where it's like, yeah, a lot of coaches just, thick-headed and don't want to, and stubborn and don't want to say anything just because they don't like the media. They don't want to give the media any information. Sure. But sometimes I'm sure that's tough when you're a coach to be like, I mean, because if I say this, then everyone's going to know it's going to be out there. And then what if the kids' cousins don't know? And then they get like, it's just, there's a lot of awkwardness when it comes to talking about injuries and stuff, especially with college kids.
I think they should make a game out of it and tell us 3 body parts that are fully healthy so that we can process of elimination and start to look at other things. Like, hey, his right leg, fine. Both of his arms, completely fine. Head, great. And then we can kind of, all right, is it his knee? Is it his hip? Is it, we could start doing that. Just make it a game.
Yeah, we could make a good segment out of it too. We could get one of those old games of Operation and mix that in. So yeah.
Well, I was saying like if it could be like a Price is Right show, what it sounds like.
Right.
Warmer.
Yeah. Like do something like that would be fun. But still, it's like I don't know. I don't know if it'll actually have as big of an impact during the college football season as maybe some people kind of want it to or may think it is. I think it's just going to be like, hey, this person's out. And then if a coach gets asked, I'm not saying Pittman would do this, and maybe he does, but maybe if a coach gets asked, hey, so why is so-and-so out? He's just out.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they'll say is he's just out.
Well, for fans, it's not going to be that similar because it's like people have been reporting on it forever. It just, we had to do work to get those answers and to report on it. But it's not like fans were going into games completely blind as to who was injured and who wasn't.
Yeah.
It's, really what it does is it just kind of cuts out the middleman a little bit.
Dude, like I cannot wait for Bob Holt to piss off Sam Pittman because he's just like, well, he's out. Well, what do you mean he's out? Like, is it a head injury or is it a leg? He's just out, Bob. Okay, but what part of the body is he? Like, he's going to keep pressing. He's going to keep doing it. And then Pittman's going to get so frustrated. So I can't wait for that to happen. It's
Pittman really doesn't snap at Bob. Like every other head coach, like they all love him, but like the other head coaches will snap at him a little bit. Pittman doesn't really snap at him too much.
Oh, no. I mean, imagine Muss still being in the SEC at Arkansas with these injury reports. He used to be,
Yeah.
So and so did coach's decision. All right, bud.
Because he was the one too where it was like if he got asked about it, and K would send out one of those 1 sentence statements before the game. He's like, send out the statement.
I used to love when he'd be like, why didn't Jalen Graham play? He's like, oh, I'm glad you asked. It's because I freaking hate him. That's why. It's healthy as a horse. So I hate him. That's why.
Yeah.
Well, he would get so salty about the Nick Smith situation too. But there were so many layers to that with agents and representation and everything else. But man, he would get so mad.
He was salty at a lot of people for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And that one I actually don't blame him for because that one I can understand because it was just like he's the number one, like the highest rated player to ever come to Arkansas to high school, and he's not playing, and nobody really knows why.
Talk about it.
Like you don't talk about it. No one knows why. Sometimes it's like, what was it? Knee management? Is that what they called it?
Knee management.
Yeah, knee management. Like I was like, so is his knee like bad? Like, is it how hard is it?
He's just managing it, bro.
Yeah, just managing it. It's fine. It's just being managed. But yeah, it's gonna be fun because I don't even know how Cal handles injuries. Like if he, I don't know what he's gonna do.
Hopefully we'll never find out.
He was pretty forthcoming. I remember last year, and this is something we would. Okay, well, for example, last year, Mekhi Mitchell broke his foot and missed the entire summer. Caleb Battle did the exact same thing, and nay a word was said about it. Really until like the season started. But Kentucky had a bunch of injuries too with their big man. Like I think Onyenso was out for a while. They couldn't get Big Z cleared. The other big man, the freshman Bradshaw, I think his name was, he wasn't ready for the beginning of the season. And then like in the summer, Cal's just having one of his random pressers and he's like, hey, this is going on. This is going on. This is going on. I don't know if this guy's going to be back by the time. Like he was very transparent about it. So maybe that's something he'll talk about.
We got the confirmation because they were like, there was like a pool party where like in the very background, you can kind of see he was on one of those like little, I don't know what the machine is called, the little thing, but like, he was walking with something. And we were like,
the little scooter thing. There's nothing better than zooming in and like screenshotting those pictures and sending it to somebody on staff and being like, if you're trying to hide it, like you guys really got to do a better job about it.
3 more people in front of them.
Yeah. No, well, that's what I was gonna like start saying that, like when people talk about the reason Lincoln Riley left Oklahoma is because they were joining the SEC and he was too scared of it. I'm just gonna start the rumor that Muss left Arkansas because he didn't want to deal with the injury reports.
Yeah, he was horrified of it.
Yeah, just did not want to.
That's why he wanted to go back to the West Coast.
Yeah.
Did you guys see Muss and Bobby Bones?
Sure did.
Yeah.
He called Bobby Bones a legend.
He did.
Bobby Bones is a legend. Yeah.
Muss has been hanging out with a lot of folks lately. Seems like his eye's not on the ball completely.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
It's not focused. It's not focused on what the task at hand.
I wouldn't want to play for that guy. I'll just tell you that.
Yeah. Because they said they ran into each other at the Chargers facility. Wasn't that like what it was?
I think that's right.
Yeah. I'm sure that was completely random and way fancy seeing you here. It's like being at the airport. It's like,
Muss is either at a concert or a professional team's practice every day.
If a professional sports event is happening within 100 miles, Muss is there.
He's there.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, he's there. He gets a picture and lets everybody know that he's there and how cool it is. So a few little chats that want to bring up here. See, this comes from Brady. He says, could we win 9 games? It might take a while for Talon to learn a new offense. I think that's a very overrated thing of like
I was gonna
learning
say,
a new offense.
The reason why I don't think Arkansas will win 9 games is not because of that. Like, I think Talon knows the offense pretty well.
Yeah.
Especially being here the whole offseason. And I mean, he's not the only one. I mean, the entire offense has to learn the new offense as well.
Yeah. Also, I don't know what this, he says, did you guys cover the O lineman that didn't get all of his NIL money, so he refused to practice and then got a check or cash app and came back? What's going on then with NIL? I have no idea what this is. Do you guys?
There were rumblings towards the end of spring about, I don't know about O-line, but just several, like, oh, I'm hearing, the NIL checks aren't cashing or they're late or whatever. So as soon as spring ball is over, X, Y, and Z are all entering the portal, and then it didn't happen.
Right.
And so that might have all just been BS, or maybe they got their NIL checks. I don't know. But yeah, I can't speak intelligently.
Dude, imagine not getting paid for your services, bro. Like that's something that's crazy, bro.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine that. That would be really, really tough to handle and unacceptable.
Yeah, it'd be a really terrible thing to do.
I would probably enter the transfer portal.
I would sit out of the hypothetical practice as well, probably.
Yeah.
But we're happy that Arkansas's receivers decided to stick it out.
That's right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Glad that the bag man came through.
Yeah.
And the witching hour when he came through too.
That's right.
This comes from Rain. She says, last year KJ played the entire Western Carolina game. Do you all expect to see Singleton play more than that game? I assume she means like UAPB. We also lose guys to cupcake games, especially at War Memorial Stadium. How do we play many of the ones? This is a thing where I know it's not because of War Memorial, but it is a little eerie.
Yeah. How
something like last year's game, other than the final score for Razorback fans, everything else was a disaster. Like the whack, they ran out of water, the heat, the
ticket thing didn't work.
Yes, the ticket
scanners.
Dude, I had tickets to the game, and I have never in my life like dealt with something so frustrating and everything. And then what was it? I guess Rocket Sanders, wasn't that the game he like messed up his knee or whatever?
Basically the end of his career. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like, you know what? I don't know. Maybe Petrino always had really good luck at Little Rock. Maybe there's something to that. I don't know. That's about all I got.
To answer the first part of that question, I'm going to be really interested to see because on one hand, I would think, like if Arkansas has got the game well under control, turn it over to Singleton, get that man some valuable reps. That'd be great, against UAPB. But it's also Talon Green's first game with all his new weapons against somebody else and a different opponent. So, but they might stick with him until halfway through the fourth quarter and then give Singleton a series or two at the end or something. I just think it might last a little bit longer than it normally would under different circumstances.
Yeah, Petrino's pretty good. Like he used to do the thing where it'd be like half and half with the quarterbacks. I don't expect that to happen, especially because we don't really have like a battle going on here. But also, I believe Criswell did play at least a couple drives last year because he threw a touchdown to Davion Dozier, who, by the way, may or may not have caught a couple touchdowns today.
How about that?
He is alive from the dead, which is nice to see because this spring was not kind to Davion Dozier. But I think Singleton will get a little bit of run in War Memorial. I also do just by all indications, they should absolutely wallop Pine Bluff. So if it's legitimately 63-0 type of thing, then they're not gonna
come on.
They're not going to do anything too. I mean, the last time they played Pine Bluff in War Memorial, Malik Hornsby played the entire second half and didn't score a point.
Correct.
It's true.
But he did play the whole second half, So
wasn't it? It was 45-0 at halftime, and I think Arkansas won 45-3.
I think that's right.
It was something exactly like that.
Yeah. So
the Nate Perotti game.
Yeah, Perotti, man, I forgot about that guy. But that's another thing too. Is just for those games, and Al Petrino handles it. It needs to be somewhere if it's halftime 45-0 again type of game. Second half, it's just all right, we're going it's almost and again, I keep referencing the video game for college football, but just all right, hit chew clock on, put the setting on chew clock, run the ball as much as possible, bring in, I don't even know who the fourth string running back is. I'm sure I could look it up, but
Rodney Hill.
There you go. So, bring in him. Because remember, you got the 4-game deal for red shirts too. So, play.
I was going to say, you might see KJ Jackson. Because why not? Because you can only play him in 4 games, and if you don't play him against UAPB, you're probably not playing him at all. It's
Who's the Coastal Carolina kid? Sam mentioned him today. The other quarterback,
Boda,
yeah,
like Boda.
Costa. Was it Coastal? Is that right?
That
I think
sounds
so.
right.
Yeah,
yeah,
Boda.
yeah.
Well, forget all that. We need to see old Lead. We need Austin Lead better. In a Central Arkansas coming home,
It'd be electric.
playing some QB.
You got to be careful. You cannot burn his red shirt though.
No, you can't. You can't. Not at all. Yeah, like Blake brings this up too. He says we definitely won't lose a 7-3 game against Mississippi State with Bobby Petrino calling plays.
Oh,
That's
brother,
true.
I hope not.
Fair enough.
Man,
Yeah.
oh man,
That's true. Because I was trying to
probably wouldn't have lost that game if Kenny Guyton were calling plays. Honestly,
I think we all could have scored as many points as offensive coordinator as Dan Enos did last year.
Well, the 3 that they got were based off a pick. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it was a
It was
pick.
like early in the game, interception or something that like had them set up.
I remember going into the fourth quarter of that game, sitting by Andrew in the press box, just going, "It's over." Like they do not have a chance to score a touchdown in this game. Like, you just knew, man.
I really thought Pittman was going to get fired Monday. Like I thought he was going to get fired like on the spot, but it turns out he he successfully made a trade.
Yeah, yeah.
Was that the game too? The press conference where he did I didn't know what to do. Was that after that game because of the field goal? Like they got to delay a game because they didn't take a timeout because Cam Little's about to kick a field goal, and they took a delay a game and that pushed them back out of field goal range and they punted it and everyone was like,
I think it might have been BYU.
Was it BYU? Okay,
I think it might have been one of those early games where he said that I didn't know what to do and it became a graphic.
Yeah. And that was the thing where I was really like frustrated because it was like that. Well, the Mississippi State game when he did that, I'm pretty sure that's what happened. They were lining up and it was like a 48-yard field goal or maybe like 49. It's pretty long, and they just took a delay a game. And the Cam Little was out there about to kick, but no, delay a game pushes them back.
One of those we're trying to give our punter more room. It was like we ran out of time on the play clock.
Yeah, we just hesitated and we screwed up. My bad, my B. So. Like Kingsley saying here, Kingsley's like the only thing that works at War Memorial is the tailgate.
By the way, did y'all see we had double Kingsley action in the chat again?
Love that.
Yeah,
I love it. It didn't happen like every time because like Kingsley Harris comes and goes sometimes, but sometimes when we get a double Kingsley,
good day.
You know it's gonna be a good day.
If we get Moses Kingsley into the chat, I wanted to say a 3-way, but that's not the way it needed to be.
Yeah, 3-way Kingsley. Wow.
Yeah, the triple threat of Kingsleys. That would be pretty awesome if that actually happens. So
the holy Kingsley. Like it's the Holy Trinity,
the Holy Kingsley. We just got a few minutes left here. I didn't want to bring this up though, guys, because Dalton was asking, are y'all going to do a live review of the Tusk beer?
Well, I almost said at some point we got an email during this that what's the name of the company? I forgot. Yeah, Goat Lab. Goat Lab Brewery is now the official craft brewery of the Arkansas Razorbacks as of 12/51. So
I take issue with this. Wiener Dog owner, it hurts me to see Core Brewing replaced. That was the official sponsor, so that's a little bit upsetting. I love the can. I'll give him credit for the artwork on the can. And yeah, I would love to try that beer. In fact, if it's in the store, I might buy some tonight.
Yeah, I was gonna say, dude, if that beer is even halfway like drinkable, yeah, they're gonna absolutely print money, bro. It's gonna be nuts,
dude. Well, here's the thing too: is that you're gonna know if they're a true Razorback fan if they're getting the Razorback Tyson chicken nuggets and drinking it with a Tusk beer.
Oh
my
like that. That's when you know when you're like, okay, you are doing your job to support.
Sounds like dinner.
Yeah, I wonder how much like that costs to become the like. I guess it's a partnership. I don't think it's the official beer because I guess Bud Light or Budweiser is still the official beer or whatever it is. But I don't know. I always wonder, like, how does that work? Does Arkansas have an official vodka? Do they have an official whiskey?
It says that Tusk will be available on tap and in carryout packs at Goat Lab's tap room in Lowell starting today. On Friday, August 9th, distribution of this new refreshing beer will begin to local Northwest Arkansas restaurants, retailers, and liquor stores, with a statewide rollout being planned over the next few weeks leading up to kickoff of the Razorbacks football season and other fall sports.
Shout out to my guy. I see
Good time.
JT Hazelwood in the chat. He's my go-to for alcohol questions, alcohol distribution. He's got it all, so I'm sure he can. He'll get his hands on some.
Yeah,
for
he'll
us.
take care of us.
Yeah. No, it's like Dalton also says he's like the frat houses trash cans are going to have nothing but Tusk and Razorback nugget containers in it.
Yeah, that's
Probably
probably
so.
true.
Yeah,
Probably
Probably
man.
true.
Yeah. But yeah, that was when I saw that get put out, which I have you guys been to the Goat Lab up in Lowell? I think it's Lowell. I actually went there a couple months ago. It's a pretty cool setup, and they've done a lot of stuff with NIL and everything. And I know our guy Dudley goes over there, and Dudley Dawson does the comedy club
Yeah, the Grove thing.
The Grove.
Yeah,
That's
cool.
Yeah, he goes over there and does
That's where I
that.
saw Todd Packer at.
Is that where it was?
It was at the comedy lab or club. Yeah.
What's
it?
David
What's it called?
Kochner? His name?
Yeah, David Concher. Yeah, he was great.
Huh. Well, see, I still wonder. I'm like, man, no offense, but it's like that's the type of places he's booking. You know, I was like, but maybe
It's also funny because I think he said it was like 9 or 10 episodes of The Office total.
Mhm.
And he was like, at the time I did it, like, you know, he liked it and all that, but he was like, I did not think it was going to carry me into my 60s and 70s where it's like, you know, but that's the thing in life is if you do one thing well one time, you can just forever cash it out, especially in today's society. We love rehashing old stuff.
Yeah. It's kind of why I feel bad for Gary Sinise. Do you guys know who Gary Sinise is?
No.
He is the actor that played Lieutenant Dan in Forrest Gump.
Oh.
And he has played in a lot of great movies. He's a really great actor. He's done a lot of great work for our military here and everything, but it does not matter because no matter what, everyone is going to be like, that's Lieutenant Dan. They probably don't even know his name, but it's like, oh, Lieutenant Dan. Like it's kind of the same thing. When you do something once and it's stuck with it, you're just going to have to roll with it.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I'm trying to pronounce how you pronounce that. Rue Pigsui, I assume.
I think.
But he says they will have it available at the Little Rock game. My buddy works for the distributor, talking about the Tusk beer. So
Sweet.
Yeah, I think that was in the release that they said they're gonna that you can have it at the opener.
yeah. Oh, there you go.
Oh, yeah,
Also-
it is in there. Sweet. Yeah.
Also, this too, like this is so true. Arkansas may beat UAPB on the field, but the UAPB band is going to win the Battle of the Bands, 100%.
Ain't lying.
Not even questioned. Like honestly, it was so funny when Arkansas I'm sure you guys remember when they played UAPB in Little Rock, and it was 2021, right? Yeah. When they played them, it was a blowout, 45-0. People didn't start hitting the, back out to the tailgate and everything till after halftime. Usually it's halftime is when they start. Nope, they waited till after halftime, then they left because, that's one thing. I could spend an entire show talking about the band at the U of A and my frustrations with them.
Hey,
but
by the way,
nobody cares.
shout out to Hogball Burner because he is claiming that he's going to get a Sam Pittman tattoo if they win 7 games this year. And I tried to tell him, I was like, dude, that's a little bit of a low bar. Like, you know,
like 9 games.
Make it 9 games. Yeah, if they go 9-3, you'll do it. 7-5.
Sounds like you just won a tattoo.
Right. I was like, it's not even going to take like a drastic turn of events for that to happen. Like that would just take Mississippi State and Missouri sucking is pretty much it.
Yeah.
Hogball Burner is a relentless troll of other SEC schools, and I appreciate that. I do. It doesn't go unnoticed.
Yeah. Luckily, we don't have some of those, trolls from other SEC schools.
Yeah.
So,
Glad we never get trolled.
Yeah, glad we never get trolled with anybody. Everybody's so
Do
real.
we get trolled more by other fan bases or our own fan base?
It depends on the day.
That's true.
Like, sometimes the Hogs get after us.
Yeah. they do. And sometimes you don't even know why.
And it's like a hog in the bio. It's like, damn, why do you hate me? Like, what?
Yeah. It's like that was my favorite thing is whenever I just get blown up and I don't even know until I'm like put my phone down, I pick it up and all of a sudden I'm just getting roasted. I was like, what did I do? And it was because somebody said something else about a tweet that was happening. I was like, geez. Let's see. David says, love that Curtis is rocking the facial hair again.
Yeah, I get my pockets where it's acceptable, which means when my wife is out of town. But I think we're gonna get pretty thick here moving forward because she's gone right now. And then she's back for a few days, but she goes on her annual, it's like the end of cheer camp season. So they send her to some resort kind of thing in Pennsylvania. She'll be gone for 2 weeks. So I'm going to get into deep facial hair season pretty soon. And then she'll come back pissed off and make me shave it.
Well, we got beard. Me and Andrew's got a beard, I think. Like,
Yeah, a little too much. I'm probably gonna have to shave mine soon just because I feel gross.
Are you ever going to cut the hair? Is that ever going to be a thing?
I probably should. I mean, I'd said like if Arkansas won the Natty that I would keep the hair forever, and then they didn't win the Natty, and I just never cut it. I'll probably cut it.
I just don't know if you can go 0 to 100 or 100 back to 0. Like you're starting on the beat days of haircut. If you just went from what you have now to that, like your old Twitter profile picture.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I would
Maybe a
view
little
you as
trim.
the same person.
Yeah,
if I
I
could even
definitely
treat
need
you
a
like
little trim, dude. My hair falls out like crazy, and I'm just sick of vacuuming up my own hair.
Are you the
so
one that clogs the shower? And
Really, I'm not.
Okay.
Hillary takes care of that for me. She goes ahead and she takes it upon herself to clog the shower drain. I don't need to.
Great. That's something. I know we had a shortened version of it, guys. Today.
You want to tell the folks why we had a shortened version?
Yeah, because I have an appointment, a very, very important appointment for something that we've talked about just like literally in the past 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Is I have a haircut. And the nice young lady that does my haircut, I was about to say something. She's very tough to get an appointment with. I was about to say hard to get into, but I know that was going to be horrible to say. So, yeah. So anyways, it's hard to move it around. And with Pittman actually going early today, which, would have been nice, kind of threw us off a little bit, but that's okay. Cause tomorrow we get, is it Smith? Running backs coach?
Right. Smith and then Mateos
on
Saturday.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to hear from Smith because I don't feel like we haven't got a chance to really hear from him since he was hired in like the middle of the spring.
I don't think so.
So that'll be pretty interesting to go through. So any final thoughts, guys, before we get out of here?
Nope.
Good. That's great. Because
my final thought is I watched the first episode of Hard Knocks last night. Not bad. I don't like the Bears, but I think if anyone's looking for something random, they got that football fever. It'll get the juices flowing a little bit.
Yeah. Or the Acolyte, Andrew's favorite show. So yeah, don't do that. Either way, appreciate everybody listening in, watching in to Inside Arkansas Live. Be sure to subscribe to all of our stuff here on YouTube. Also check out the website. Great written content each and every day, keeping you updated at InsideArkansas.com. And we're going to keep that going and keep that moving. So for Curtis Wilkerson and Andrew Ellis, I'm John Neighbors. Same sports show, same sports channel. Tomorrow at noon. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you then.